State prosecutors on Wednesday formally opened the case against 14 persons accused of murdering Army Major Maxwell Adam Mahama, who was lynched by a mob in the central region town of Denchro-Boase. This was after the court successfully empaneled a 7-member jury after 2 failed attempts. Chief Evelyn Kilsing told the jury the state will show how each of the 14 individuals contributed to the death of the soldier. There is more in the following report.
The past 11 months since Major Mahama was killed has seen police make the arrest of as many as 58 people and subsequently charging 14 at a magistrate court. The court described the evidence presented to it as satisfactory as it committed the individuals to trial at the High Court. 2 months on, the state had been unable to open its case as various bottlenecks cropped up in court. First was the inability of the accused persons to secure legal representation, with the second being a failure to empanel a jury. This was as a result of a rejection of jurors by the accused persons. On Wednesday, when the case was called, the first 2 persons nominated to join the jury were rejected, with a third accepted to fill the empty slot available. After they were sworn in, the court allowed lawyers in the case to make their opening statements. Chief State Attorney Evelyn Kilsing said,
"We will show you the roles of each accused person in the lynching of Major Mahama in the course of this trial."
Judge Bernard Showis, lawyer for 6 of the accused persons, said,
"The prosecutor will not be able to show that William Barr, the assemblyman, did intentionally instigate and cause the gang of young men of the town to undertake this act."
The other defense lawyers had this to say.
"They appear before you as individuals. They are in the dock collectively, but look at the evidence individually. You cannot be heartbroken if you look at the circumstances of this case, but please look at the evidence. Keep your eyes on that ball."
You should not follow the Ghanaian way of doing things, the media things. Look at the evidence critically.
Ignore talks about mob. They must show how acts by A5 and A6 caused their death. You are not supposed to follow your emotions. You must follow the evidence.
Trial Judge Mahama also adjourned hearing to May 10 to allow the Chief State Attorney to begin leading evidence to support the charges against the 14.
2016 presidential candidate of the Progressive People's Party, Dr. Forakye Indom, is impressing on government for the implementation of the election of metropolitan and municipal district chief executives now. His comments come on the back of a campaign promise by the governing New Patriotic Party to make MMDCs electable within 24 months of being in power. That position has since been revised, with the Minister of Local Government, Hajalima Mahama, now saying the election of MMDCs will be implemented in 2021. Dr. Indom told newsmen on Wednesday government would have to implement the process immediately, not later.
We take President Akufo-Addo at his word that he is really in a hurry to develop this country. We take his word, as he says very often. But we want him to also know that if he wants this to happen, if he wants development to happen quickly, then the election of MMDCEs must become one of his top priority items. This matter, the election of MMDCEs, must happen. And we in the PPP believe that the election of MMDCEs would be a powerful, positive game changer for Ghana's development. And as we declared at the 4th National Convention of our party in Bolgatanga, it said that our party shall continue to promote the election of MMDCEs as the most important governance reform needed for Ghana's democratic and economic development, and demand that it is made a top priority in the nation's governance agenda. And rise and stand with us and ask, demand, tell the people that we want the right to elect our metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. We want it not later, we want it now. If care is not taken, this important matter may become labeled as a purely MPP matter. So we are here to declare that this is a real national interest policy. It's not an MPP matter.
Dr. Indom criticized the MPP government for playing delay tactics with the process, adding government is deliberately denying development of the country from the district level.
We have been promised it. We have believed it. People have gone to cast votes. Power has been given to some people. We actually like this policy. We're not talking against it. We like it. We want it. But what is happening now, it gives us cause to worry. That's why we are talking. Somebody might say delay tactics. Now, why did the deputy minister say what he did? The deputy minister said that there is a challenge posed by Article 55, Section 3 of the Constitution, which says, and I'm quoting to you, subject to the provisions of this article, a political party is free to participate in shaping the political will of the people, to disseminate information on political ideas, social and economic programs of a national character, and sponsor candidates for elections to any public office other than to district assemblies or lower local government units. This one is an entrenched provision in the Constitution which requires a referendum. Now remember, I mentioned one to you that I said was not entrenched. That could be removed by Parliament. And in MPP, lawyers, why? There are plenty of them. So lawyers, they come dozens and dozens of them. So they know how to read the law books. They know how to read the Constitution. So you would have thought that knowing what they wanted to do, they would have armed themselves so that day one, sworn in, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go for a referendum. We want this part, not the other one. And then with urgency, we should be ready by now, going to a referendum so that the change can happen. So if they wanted to go that route, they could have prepared very early to do this. So I'm just raising a question. Is this just a delay tactic?
Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Osebonsu Amwa, however, says President Akufo-Addo has long revised his campaign promise and that Ghanaians will now have to decide whether they want MMDCs elected. He explains consultations are currently underway ahead of a referendum which will decide changes to the Constitution regarding the appointment of MMDCs.
Next year, when we have the District Assembly election, it's the outcome of the referendum that will determine the rest of the roadmap.
Please clarify. What I get from that statement that the president made was that we would actually elect these MMDCEs whilst we elect the District Assembly executives and not the referendum.
Please, before due respect, read the president's statement again. Read what he said in Parliament again. He's saying that we have to cross the hurdle of amending Article 55.3, which is entrenched. That means that you have to go for a referendum to be able to amend that article. If the people of Ghana agree to the amendment of that article, it becomes easy for us to roll out to the rest of the program. If it's rejected, then we have to look at Plan B. So I don't understand why there's so much noise about this. And that's why we're going around stakeholders conferences, workshops, etc. Just discussing with the people of Ghana the way forward.
It may be a subject of discussion, Ms. Obiamwa, because it was contained in your manifesto. I'm sure you would have taken in
nominate 5 persons and 3 will be shortlisted for us to vote on them. That is what the white paper said. But the president says that we should be able to have multi-party elections for the election of the MMDC. And the only way you can do this is to amend Article 55.3.
So, Mr. Obianwa, would you say that this is a promise that was well thought through by your government?
Whatever it is, the government is delivering on its promise by committing itself to get MMDCs elected. That is the most important thing.
But when you said you were going to do it in 24 months, what did you mean?
We didn't say 24 months.
Meanwhile, Associate Professor at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Professor Russ has expressed disappointment at the Akufo-Addo administration's failure to fulfill its campaign promise made in 2016. He believes the NPP was fully aware that it could not have been able to fulfill the promise within the time frame and urged politicians to critically assess their promises.
The direct election on MMDCs on partisan lines will require some changes to our constitution. Some of them will require a referendum. Okay, and we know that organizing a referendum is not just a simple matter. It requires processes and procedures. It requires a lot of things that would have to be done. The point is, well, most of them are lawyers and they should know. They should know that there are legal requirements and there are constitutional hurdles that we have to scale over before we are able to give this promise to fruition. And so I'm thinking they knew, and yet they went out of their way to promise. And so it is worrying when people are expert and knowledgeable in certain fields of endeavor and within certain disciplines. They are required to bring their expertise knowledge to bear when they are appointed as ministers. You know that there are hurdles to be jumped before this would have to be done. And so why do you go and promise in 2019 and 2018 and all that? And so for me, they've done a great disservice to Ghana, because a lot of Ghanaians have their hopes in this, and now they tend to be shifting the goalposts. Going forward, politicians must be circumspect in the kinds of things they say just to win power. They must think through the kinds of promises they make before they throw it out there, because we would always hold them to account.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still to come, we'll bring you the story of a night driver who suffered an acid attack that's left him with a daily nightmare.
I feel really sad most of the time, because when I remember how I used to be and now what I have become, I feel really sad.
We will hear his story. Stay tuned. Now, the Ghana Health Service says progress has been made in Ghana in the fight against malaria, with related deaths now on the decline. Director of Public Health, Dr. Forakye, however, says despite the successes, the country has a lot to do in the area of sanitation to be able to meet its 2030 target of eliminating malaria. Dr. Forakye was speaking on the sidelines of this year's World Malaria Day commemoration at Ashaiman.
The day was marked with hundreds of residents from in and around Ashaiman taking part in a malaria and HIV/AIDS screening exercise. Several measures in the past have been put in place to fight malaria. These include distribution of bed nets and malaria drugs, among other preventive measures. Dr. Forakye says whilst other countries have fought malaria successfully through the same preventive measures rolled out in Ghana, the insanitary conditions and other factors are undermining the country's efforts.
There's been a lot of gain, but then it's important that we sustain the gains to make sure that we would get the best of the benefits of what we have earlier initiated. And then it's important that issues on sanitation, the various breeding sites within the cartites, the empty cans and tents, these are the breeding sites for the mosquitoes, and we should do best as people to remove these areas, these breeding sites around and surrounding our places of habitat.
Meanwhile, head of the National Malaria Control Program, Dr. Kezia Maum, says they are working towards reducing malaria-related maternal mortalities.
In 2003, thereabouts, we're recording around 6,000 deaths. If you take around those times, if you take 1,000 people who have malaria, we take 1,000 people who have malaria, about 140 of them were dying from malaria. But last year, if you take 1,000 people who have malaria, just about 2 people are dying from malaria. So in terms of death, we have made a lot of progress when it comes to malaria.
Partners and allied agencies have pledged their continued support towards winning the fight against malaria. Kwame Yankers reports for Joy News.
Elsewhere, 41 people died from malaria in the Jurapa municipality of the Upper West region in the last 2 years alone. Medical Director of the St. Joseph's Hospital, Dr. Richard Wodaseme, said 29 of the 12,991 who reported to the hospital with malaria in 2016 passed on, with the number of deaths declining to 12 in 2017. At the celebration of World Malaria Day at Jurapa, Dr. Richard Wodaseme said, despite the significant gains made, malaria continues to be a burden not only to the hospital but the nation as a whole. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Jurapa.
Malaria Day celebration in the Upper West region was on the theme End Malaria for Good. Workers of Anglo Gold Asante Malaria Limited, Agamal, Ghana Health Service, and the Wa Municipal Assembly went round some principal streets in the Wa municipality to drum home the message on the need to eradicate the deadly disease. They held placards, some of which read, "Keep your environment clean. Saving your lives is our goal, and controlling malaria is our passion." Upper West Zonal Manager of Agamal, Musa Abdul Razak, noted that despite the reduction of malaria cases in the Upper West region in the last 5 years, they are not going to coil back, but will work to completely eradicate it from the region.
As you know, the Upper West region is the only region in Ghana here that is enjoying the IRS spraying, and the malaria cases has drastically reduced in probably the last 5-6 years. It has gone down to about 39% from back in 2012. It was up to about 47%, and we are fighting to let it eventually to have it eradicated, but our main thing is to continue to prevent malaria.
He called on the people to cooperate with the workers to ensure that the exercise becomes a success.
This particular insecticide we're using, that's the Atalic 300 CS, is less potent. It has less of a scent, even though you can't completely have no scent insecticide, and we can assure you it's not harmful. But it's obvious is you don't take it and put it in your mouth. Anything you do like that, you actually put yourself in harm's way.
With support from Waste Management Company, Zoom Lion Limited, they also cleaned some major drains in some suburbs of the Wa municipality. They climaxed the day by holding a free house cleaning exercise for the residents. Presiding member of the Wa Municipal Assembly, Karim Abdul Rahman Topie, praised the organizers for the program.
After Agamal leave, as a community, we need to continue from Agamal left and then make sure that we keep our surroundings clean and then take the good advices that they have been giving us. And I also want to assure Agamal that on behalf of the municipality, we understand one of the major challenges they have is access to our communities or our rooms to spray. I want to assure them that this time around we are committed that if there is any challenge at all, they should fall back on us. We will make sure that we talk to our people and then access is free for them to do their job.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
Ghana is one of the countries in which the World Health Organization is set to pilot a newly developed anti-malaria vaccine. That's according to the Africa Regional Director of WHO, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti. Her comments come amidst fears of an emerging threat of resistance to malaria drugs. Dr. Moeti, however, says a threat of resistance has not been recorded in Ghana. Speaking at a media interaction in Accra a while ago, Dr. Moeti said what must be of utmost concern to Ghana is the increasing capacity to diagnose malaria and to do so quickly. Right, we apologize. There is an issue with that sound. We're going to rectify that and bring it to you in a bit. We're taking a break here at this point to bring you business news with Emmanuel Abajia.
Hello, good evening to you. Time now for business. Indigenous oil marketing company GOIL has been selected among other local oil marketing companies to lead in the implementation of the gas and cylinder recirculation program. To this end, GOIL has been mandated to build 3 gas filling plants in various parts of the country. Chairman of the Board of Directors, Kwamna Bartels, stated this in an interview at GOIL's 49th Annual General Meeting in Accra. He says gas filling stations will be built in Tema, Kumasi and Tamale. Ebenezer Sabutis reports read to you.
President Akufo-Addo in October last year directed that the new cylinder recirculation module for LPG distribution be implemented to reduce the risk of accidents at the various gas filling stations in the country. This means LPG bottling plants will be sited away from congested commercial and populated areas. As part of government's mandates, the local oil marketing company, GOIL, will procure, brand, maintain and fill empty cylinders for more distribution to consumers and households through retail outlets. Managing Director of GOIL, Patrick Akoli, has been explaining in an interview with Joy Business.
Companies will be in charge of the distribution of the LPG bottles. We will have a filling plant at Tema. We'll have one in Kumasi, and then we'll also have one in Tamale, which will be doing the cylinder refilling. Then we'll have vehicles who will go around distributing the cylinders, the filled one. So the customer will no longer go to a filling plant with an empty bottle to get the cylinder filled. We just want to eliminate the contact of the customer and the filling plant, so that we can reduce the number of incidents that occur at these filling plants.
He disclosed GOIL is earmarking about 50 million cedis for the program. He, however, assures shareholders that the company will be paying high dividends soon when the company starts realizing proceeds from other investments it has made so far.
We want to operate as a commercial enterprise, increasing the shareholders' value. But at the same time, as the largest oil marketing company in the country, we are also looking at the economic fortunes of the country. We don't want to distort the market. So we are trying to marry the two positions.
How much is the LPG going to cost? How much is the program going to cost? You need to make that happen for the...
It's an investment. It's being appraised, but we are likely to invest over 50 million Ghana cedis.
That was the whole program?
Yeah.
Shareholders have approved an amount of almost 11 million cedis as dividend for the year ending 2017.
Meanwhile, GOIL made a net profit of 65 million cedis, an increase of 21% for the year under review. The company paid a total sum of 1.128 billion cedis in taxes and levies to the government during the same period. Board Chairman Kwamna Bartels outlines other projects earmarked for the year.
Has had a challenge in terms of adequate supply of lubricants compared to demand. In the light of these challenges, the company is making plans to build her own lubricant blending and filling plant in Tema to supplement supply. With regards to adding value to the supply chain in the petroleum sector, The company will strive to move upstream in order to maximize the wealth of shareholders. Last but not the least, GOIL will be leveraging its 330 retail outlets throughout the country to diversify into the digital finance business, specifically to diversify into money transfer. This is in line with government's encouragement of digital financial inclusion, a concept which is meant to give the informal sector access to formal financial services.
And away from that, Minister of State for Tertiary Education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, has called for the formalization of other international languages in the curricula of business schools in the country. He was speaking on the sidelines of the 39th Management Day celebration of the University of Ghana Business School here in Accra.
The Management Day celebration of the University of Ghana Business School is an annual affair which is set aside to bridge and foster working relationship among students and other stakeholders in employment. This year's celebration saw key stakeholders in education and business concentrate on the need for entrepreneurial development. Speaking on the sidelines of the event, Minister in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, called for the introduction of international languages in the curricula of business schools, as this would help broaden their benefits as upcoming entrepreneurs.
Many Togolese and Beninois speak fluent English, but mostly those who happen to speak the majority languages have inertia, saying that the business school and other business schools should consider the geopolitical situation in which Ghana finds itself. To find itself, they should collaborate with language departments in order to fix this particular
Business School. Professor Joshua Abo says his department is on course in providing students with such opportunities.
We've introduced a one-year master's program in international business, and students will have the opportunity of picking electives from any of the languages. Also at the undergraduate level, students are expected to pick one language course, either in French, Chinese, and the like. So going forward as business students who want to be entrepreneurs, want to be investors, having a second language is extremely critical.
This year's celebration was under the theme Entrepreneurship, a catalyst for Ghana's socio-economic development. Reporting for Joy Business, Karen Dodo.
Now, the Ghana Hotels Association is urging the Tourism Ministry and the Ghana Tourism Authority to consider funding activities of tourism trade associations to enhance performance of their members in their quest to offer improved services. Newly sworn-in president of the association, Dr. Edward Akanyameke, says the request for funding will impact positively on tourism development in the country. He was speaking at the ceremony to inaugurate the newly national executives of the Ghana Hotels Association in Koforidua in the Eastern region.
The inaugural ceremony was under the theme Reducing Hotel Rates in Ghana, the Role of Government. It coincided with the association's second National Executive Council meeting. Various players in the hospitality industry and regulators were present and made contributions on how their operations could be enhanced. Newly sworn-in president said his tenure will ensure the building of a resourceful association which will focus on giving more benefits to its members. Key among issues was a call for government to mend some regulations to reduce taxation of its members.
The vision is a bold attempt to address in a holistic manner long-standing challenges that continue to plague operators in the hotel industry. These challenges include high utility tariffs, duplication of roles by regulatory bodies, indiscriminate increase in statutory licensing and royalty fees, diminishing occupancy rates, poor sanitation, and lapses in public security. These challenges, Nana Chairman, and others not mentioned here, are well known and well documented, and therefore need no further enumeration. Indeed, Nana Chairman, our strategy moving forward as an association will be a passionate focus on solutions. We shall strive to propose solutions to the challenges facing the industry and advocate for their implementation to the benefit of all.
The Tourism Development Fund, instituted 5 years ago, is said to have generated over 20 million Ghana cedis from the 1% levies collected from trade associations. To enhance performance of trade associations, Dr. Akka called on the Tourism Ministry to make judicious use of the levy to fund their activities.
One of the major challenges that makes such associations ineffective and sometimes seemingly irrelevant is the lack of both human and capital resources. These low human and capital resources can also be traced to subsidy fees or dues that are generally low because payment is voluntary. Having established a tourism development fund, which major sources of funding is a mandatory payment of 1% of inflow by operators in the tourism sector, which also has one of its objectives to empower the private sector to play a meaningful role in tourism development. I believe it is high time that the Ministry and GTA consider funding activities of the various tourism trade associations, particularly those expenses that are administrative in nature, such as staff salaries, transportation, printing and stationery, ICT, and so on.
The newly elected executive swore the oath of office administered by the former president of the association, Nana Kofi Eje Trene I, who is also the CEO of Magdic Royal Plaza Hotel. The new president is the immediate past Greater Accra president of the association. He is taking over from Herbert Akka as the national president after a competitive election.
And that's all by way of business tonight. It's great having you on board. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. Have a good evening.
We're returning to our earlier story on malaria, and Ghana is one of the countries in which the World Health Organization is set to pilot a newly developed anti-malaria vaccine. That's according to the Africa Regional Director of WHO, Dr. Matshidiso. Her comments come amidst fears of an emerging threat of resistance to malaria drugs. Dr. Murty, however, says the threat of resistance has not been recorded in Ghana. Speaking at a media interaction in Accra a while ago, Dr. Murty said what must be of utmost concern to Ghana is an increasing capacity to diagnose malaria and to do so quickly.
There is a risk of emerging resistance to the anti-malarial drugs that are commonly in use now, including here in Ghana, in Asia. Here in the African continent, including in Ghana, the anti-malarials that the government is providing are effective. There is not resistance emerging. What is very important is to ensure that there is early diagnosis of malaria. So when a child has a fever, it needs to be confirmed to be malaria quickly, and the government, with support from the program, from WHO, from the Global Fund in terms of financing, from the Road Back Malaria Partnership, are supporting the programs to have that capacity, to have that diagnostic capacity, to be able to confirm that this is malaria and to put the patient on treatment with these very effective malaria drugs that are available. And Ghana is one of the countries in which we are going to pilot test the use in the health system in general of a vaccine which has been developed, which is partially protective, but we think that's already good enough to be an additional tool in the armamentarium of tools that are fighting malaria. So we are starting a piloting of this project to see how the vaccine can be used, when it would be a good time to provide it to children, and how this works in the health system as it is organized, which I think will be a significant advance then in having more options about what we do to control malaria.
Now, an acid attack on your body will dramatically change your life. Most survivors of an acid attack are forced to give up their education, their occupation, and other important activities in their lives. This is because recovering from the trauma takes up most of their time, whilst the deformity also cripples them. In this report, my colleague Patricia Gasu takes a trip to Sakwa in the Central Region and tells the story of a young acid survivor.
Meet 37-year-old Isaac Yao Dankwa. A terrible incident which happened 7 years ago changed his life forever. Armed robbers attacked him when he was driving his taxi and poured acid on his face. The acid made the skin tissue on his face to melt away, while the dangerous liquid seeped deep into his eyeballs, almost dissolving both eyes. Isaac may have survived the acid attack, but his entire life has been shattered by the event of that night.
Me driver, I'm a Swedro, Aguna Swedro. Enyumri na ba kuna me yejuma.
I was a driver at Aguna Swedro when two men decided to board my car to Adeso. I agreed to transport them and then bring them back to Swedro before payment. On our way, I overheard one say to the other, "What should we do to him?"
Slow down.
Out of curiosity, I turned to ask what he meant by that. Before I could blink, he poured the acid on my face. I couldn't see anything. I was burning. He got down and pulled me out of my car, demanding for my car keys. I wondered, if you needed my car, why would you do this to me? So I locked the steering wheel and threw the keys into the bush. That angered them. One later said to the other, "Why don't we just kill him and go?"
The scars left by the acid are skin deep. He has lost the use of both eyes and nose. Isaac is not just blind. He has a layer of skin which covers his eyes and his nose, making him look like an unfinished work of art. The result of the surgery makes him sound nasal because both nostrils are almost fully blocked. He breathes through his mouth. The acid didn't just dissolve Isaac's facial tissues, it melted his self-worth and crushed everything in his life.
I feel really sad most of the time because when I remember how I used to be and now what I have become, I feel really sad. Talking to you now reminds me of my pain, and that makes me really, really sad.
He lives here in Sakwa, a small town in Ewutu Senior West District. This morning, Isaac is sitting under the cocoa tree staring into skies as if he can actually see something. The thought of being dependent now on people makes him sad. There are days Isaac does nothing but cry. But with a thin layer of skin covering his eyes, Isaac has no tears. He is the only child of his parent. His father was so stricken with grief after the incident. The old man died after a few years. Isaac lives with his mother who has troubles of her own. She is deaf in one ear. Metesa umame nso se nasubaku esi kakra. Nti eba na sa we den ne kasa o friend na o ye den ti.
Me friend I just me friend kese pa.
I have to scream out to call my mother anytime I need help. She is deaf in one ear and it poses a lot of challenge, especially when I need her at night.
And son no beti. Anajokra modasa no hia mo anso I will say
na Joseph me hia boa me sorry me baby order nti me sorry a na me de me sako kan.
Many who live with such disfiguring scars have great difficulty in finding jobs, sometimes even finding a life partner. He tells me the only lady who decided to marry him was stopped by her parents due to his condition. Isaac needs surgery to fix his nose and a job. He tells me it is sometimes difficult for him to get money for food. He and his mother rely solely on some of the farm produce she brings home.
Some friends have been helping me out. Most times, my mother will have to sell some farm produce to get money for our upkeep.
7 years of pain. Isaac lives with the trauma of being maimed as the depressing grip of loneliness fills his empty soul every passing moment. But he has hopes of getting a chance back at life. Though he might never see again, Isaac wants to work. He wants to use the little courage left in him to do something useful. Something more than just sitting his life away under this tree. Patricia Gasu, Joy News, Sakwa.
Right, so I personally plead with each and every one of you, let's see how we can help him get his eyesight back so that he can work again. Isaac Dankwa needs your help. You can send your donations via mobile money on 054-012-2612. I'd repeat it, 054-012-2612. Alternatively, you can send it through the Barclays Bank account with an account name Multimedia Group Limited on account number 041-201-8095, Circle Branch. Again, 041-201-8095. Now, Matilda, if you can just... The Akufo-Addo administration is coming for heavy criticism in recent times over its list of 998 staffers at the presidency recently submitted to Parliament. Many are of the view the large number would be a drain on the national coffers, but government officials have justified the number, saying a lot more hands are required to deliver the numerous promises made to Ghanaians. Beyond complaining about the high number, the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, is demanding better and further particulars about the people hired. It also wants a review of the Presidential Office Act and has asked the Council of State to advise the President appropriately on who works in his office. Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has, however, justified the addition of some departments and agencies to the President.
In the case of free SHS, one district, one factory, etc., national youth employment, all of those matters, these will go, at least they will become permanent features of our national bureaucratic arrangement, at least in the period that MPP is in office, unless of course another government wants to come and perhaps abolish free senior high school or refuse to pursue the national innovative plan and so on and so forth. So these are more permanent arrangements, and therefore the people that are co-opted, or even if you want employed to work on these projects, would have to stay on for as long as these projects, are beneficial to the Ghanaian people. That's the difference. So you could have also asked that, why is it that you would have to have another 100 set of people working to host World Press Freedom Day when you have a Ministry of Information or you have an Information Services Department? But everybody who is in the Information Services Department and the Ministry of Information have their daily schedules already.
But already we have questions have been raised about the productivity levels and the effectiveness of staff at MDAs. So Ghanaians have raised a lot of questions about, for instance, the departments that interface with the public. You go to a place like Passport Office, DVLA, a lot of questions have been raised about the efficiency. Okay, so already we have a public service, civil service that has its issues. If you set up another infrastructure to deal with key programs, why not beef up the capacity of these persons who are already there and who, excuse me to say, experts have raised that there are questions about their effectiveness and their productivity?
Well, again, I would also use your submission as the basis to also justify our position that if indeed the submission is correct, that people believe that the bureaucratic institutions that are in existence are ineffectual and that people are not working properly and so on. If it is true that they are not working, then it will be, as for want of a better term, foolhardy.
Let's get on to Skype now and speak with Dr. Kojo Asante of the CDD. Good evening and thank you for making time. Now, what do you hope to achieve with all these demands, assuming government through Parliament heeds your request?
Good evening and good evening to your viewer. I think we have been, thinking and talking about this issue for a long time. We think that the only way in which you can deal with these things is to activate the governance processes that are already in place. Otherwise, we will never get, push the agenda forward. It becomes unnecessary in the equalization. And maybe for the political class, this benefit them, but for the taxpayer and for the ordinary citizen who wants to ensure that profligacy and waste in the system does not continue to get value for money, we need to, to look at a solution. So, as we understand it, there are two agencies, or at least two institutions, that have a role in checking the president in the exercise of this discretion. One is the Parliament, and one is the Council of State. And we think Parliament has a responsibility, now that it has the information before it, to ask for better particulars and try to understand.
There appears to be a hold there on the Skype connection to Dr. Kojo Asante. Hopefully we will be able to re-establish that connection with him, and then he can get to clarify. But I have the statement from CDD right here with me. It says CDD Ghana is also disappointed that neither the Council of State nor Parliament has seen fit to rein in this growing indifference of successive administrations to the fiscal cost of a supersized presidential staff and retinue. Although the role of the Council of State in the staffing of the presidency is, under the applicable statute, only consultative, the point of inserting the Council in this process is presumably to enable it counsel the President in its staffing decisions, including, we would expect, in the size where it appears excessive. Similarly, the point of statutorily requiring the President to submit a list of the employees at the Presidency to Parliament on an annual basis is not merely for the sake of informing Parliament, but to enable Parliament, on the basis of that information, to raise any appropriate questions and concerns it might have over staffing with the Presidency. This is an especially important role for Parliament, as staffing numbers have direct fiscal implications. Now, I'll move to the conclusion and what they're expecting of Parliament and the Council of State, and I'll read what is here. It says, in the light of the foregoing, CDD Ghana urges Parliament in the immediate term to review the list submitted by the Presidency and demand additional information and clarity as to the precise roles and duties of the many political personnel listed with uninformative and vague job titles, as well as require disclosure of the salaries and emoluments attached to the listed positions. In the medium to long term, Parliament must review the Presidential Office Act along with the Civil Service Act as amended, with a view to depopulating the Presidency of the many needless agencies that currently fall within its organogram. I'm told that we have Dr. Kojo Asante back this time on the telephone line. Right, so Dr. Asante, we're making your point, and the line was disconnected. Can you just conclude that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll say, some of the arguments are untenable. I mean, to say that because you have a big manifesto agenda to prosecute, and therefore you should have more people, then, by default, if I promise 1,000 things, I should have 5,000 officers to prosecute. I don't think we should take that.
How else would you want them to go about it if they're saying that they need more people?
It's not really about. It's not about how large the numbers. Because if you want to even compare within the MPC regime, Kufuor also had agendas to prosecute, and they prosecuted it with less. So, and there are countries all around the world where there are fewer staffers, and yet, the productivity and the effectiveness, can be measured. So I don't think that it is true in that sense.
Well, yeah, you can dispute their claims that they need more numbers, but at the end of the day, it's an executive president, and he is the president, and he is the one who would have to go before Ghanaians to see when he seeks to renew his mandate, and they're going to be asking him how he's delivered on his mandate.
Yeah, but Israel, does it mean that we have to wait till 4 years to test whether that experiment works? I mean, this is taxpayers' money we are using. So I think we all have a responsibility at this point in time to be able to raise questions about whether or not taxpayers' money is being used appropriately. I don't think you have to necessarily wait for 4 years before you go and check on that mandate. So I think when the issue arises, we have to interrogate it, and that's why I think Parliament is well placed to do that interrogation.
All right.
You know, and be able to prefer ways in which these things have to be tackled. But definitely, I don't think that it is a given that because the president, they can choose. I mean, if we go that way, it becomes quite a difficult argument to sustain.
Now, beyond the statement that you have released, do you intend to do, does CDD intend to do anything else about it?
Yes, I mean, because I think that eventually we have to provoke that discussion about what really is an optimal structure for the president. I mean, for one, and we did realize we made mention of the amending the Presidential Office Act, the Presidential Office Act, and the Civil Service Act. Because really, if you think about some of the agencies under the president, like Ghana Aid Commission and so on, at the time that they were put under the presidency, it was for an instrumental purpose. It was for the president to lead this fight against HIV and AIDS. Once you've gotten that, prevalence rates and so on, a structure is in place, they should be basically depopulated back to agencies that are well treated, like Ministry of Health and so on and so forth. And you might not even necessarily need that big structure once you consolidate it. But we keep adding. And I was actually worried when the Minister of Information saying that these things are going to become permanent. That is going to make the Office of the President so overloaded. And so any new flagship projects that you put there, they become permanent. Can you imagine what that would look like in the next 20 years? So I think that we have to be quite reasonable and practical about these things, that it's not an efficient way of governing. And at the end, we don't have the resources to engage in these kinds of in our position, waste and inefficiency. So I really think that we need to provoke the issue, and this is one of the exercises that we would want to begin to work on. Give some idea about how the president's office will look like in terms of its structure, and how, in terms of the cost that really it incurs, what really should be reasonable in that context. So that's one of the 8 things that we'll be pursuing following this.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kojo Asante. Dr. Kojo Asante is with CDD Ghana. A report by the Ghana Strategy Initiative has revealed that the unemployment rate of the youth with higher education is higher than those less formally educated. According to the report, more females were unemployed compared to males. F.Y. Evans Chinri reports.
The 2018 strategy report published by the Ghana Strategy Initiative says persons with tertiary education have the lowest unemployment rate in the country. It also revealed that unemployment rate in Ghana currently stands at 11.9%. 57% of these are male, while 43% are female. Head of Government Relations at the Ghana Strategy Initiative, Stephen Blessing Aka, says there has been too much talk but little action about unemployment in the country. He wants government to act now.
We need capacity building support. So government should actually involve fully into the technical and the vocational training, get them fully established. Then now we can now build the skill development program, which I'm talking about the Ghana Job Bank. Because in a country where we don't have the skill development program and also the informal skill development program, if you're in such country, and how do we end unemployment? Because we need to have a complete ecosystem where students can understand that after university we have the employment data survey. We don't have that. So in our research, these are the key things that we have identified.
Chairman of the Minerals Commission Board, Samson Kwekubuafo, outlined strategies government can implement in curbing unemployment in the country.
Renewed job creation is essential. This requires rebuilding confidence in the Ghanaian economy by implementing medium-term plans for fiscal consolidation to foster economic growth. That has been clearly shown by the current MPP government. We believe that by the end of this term, Ghana's economic environment will improve to serve as basis for sustained job creation. Second, targeted labor market programs, including effective counseling and job search assistance, can make a difference. Specific measures to encourage employers to hire youth are likely to improve their prospects in the labor market.
Mr. Boafo also mentioned that Ghana needs to focus more on agriculture and manufacturing as some of the ways of creating more jobs.
Now, joining this agenda today, Asante regional correspondent Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin has been exploring health hazards posed by landfill sites. According to environmental scientists, greenhouse gases generated from waste come with more devastating health implications. Also, poorly engineered landfill or dumping sites pollute groundwater systems with attendant health hazards to users. So how bad can the situation be? Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin has details.
Methane gas is said to be 28 times more harmful than carbon dioxide. Landfill gas also contributes to smoke, giving rise to asthma and other diseases. In 2010 alone, trash released nearly 800 million metric tons of carbon dioxide globally, equivalent to about 11% of all methane generated by humans. Methane is far more damaging as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. It is produced by decomposed organic materials in the absence of air. It traps heat efficiently, though it is health and safety hazard. About 2/3 of landfill waste contains biodegradable organic matter from households, business and industry. As this organic matter decomposes, it releases methane gas. The scientists have discovered that methane traps up to 20 times more heat in the atmosphere. Dr. David Doche Wemega, a senior lecturer at the physics department at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
Methane at the landfill site representing about between 5 and 15% of the air volume can lead to combustion, can actually burst into flame. So if not controlled at the site, so those people living within the enclave of the catchment area of this can also be in danger.
Solid waste disposal in Ghana has become indiscriminate because there is no system for separating it from liquid and other forms. Currently, there are many authorized and unauthorized landfill and dump sites. Unfortunately, most of them fall below modern standards with health and environmental consequences to the people. Dr. Wemega again.
I think they have to look at putting a means of trying to protect the site and engineer the site in such a way that the methane can be collected. Because to be able to collect the methane, it means that you are preventing it from being emitted out. Because if you don't cap the site very well to prevent the methane from escaping, then you're not going to get a viable quantity of methane from the site to be used for that economic purpose. So proper engineering has to be taken into place at the site to make sure that the site is well kept.
Residents within dumping and landfill sites are more likely to suffer health effects. I sought to find how residents who live close to Dompoasi landfill site cope with the stench.
The stench is so bad that you can't breathe in.
You can't stand the stench when it rains, but you have nowhere to go.
That is just what residents know. Leachate from landfills has serious implication on groundwater, which eventually reaches our homes. Dr. Anthony Ose Chumasi is a hydrological engineer at Kumasi Technical University.
For those non-engineered landfill sites, or for that matter, the dumping grounds, there's no material which is taking care of the leachate. There's no material. They just dump it, and then the material will seep underground and cause contamination. So, in a sense, all the waters you are drinking from areas around where we put those things, at least most Ghanaians are actually going to suffer. And it is so damaging that if you don't take it, because some of them can even contain lead, because you you put batteries and other things there. It can contain so many materials which can actually cause carcinogenic matters to other people.
So what happens to garbage cleared from the street to various dumping and landfill sites? What happens to the methane released from the sites or the pollution of the groundwater system? Dr. Wemega has answers.
If we look at it in one way, it's a big resource because methane is a combustible gas, so it can be used to produce energy. But the other thing is, the system has to be put in place for it to be collected and then being used for that purpose. But if it's not done, then the only thing is that it goes into the environment.
I suggest that before you even dump the waste, you should actually take care of the hazardous ones. Those which are hazardous, I believe that those hazardous ones must be taken away. We should actually separate the waste so that at least if there's only paper which is going to the landfill site or plastic, then at least we will take ourselves from being contaminated with this liquor, which is a leachate materials which are coming from them.
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
Time now for a quick look at our top stories here on Joy News Prime. Trial of 14 persons accused of murdering Army Major Maxwell Mahama finally gets underway following recent delays over a failure to empanel a jury. Also in the bulletin, Ghana Center for Democratic Development weighs into uproar over large number of staffers at the presidency and demand a review of the Presidential Office Act. We have the Progressive People's Party demands immediate fulfillment of the NPP campaign promise to have MMDCs elected. Government, however, says that campaign promise has long been revised and that Ghanaians will have to decide at a referendum whether they want their DCs elected. In business, indigenous oil marketing company GOIL to invest $50 million in a new gas recirculation policy project as government selects 3 companies to lead its implementation. We also brought you the story of a night driver who suffered an acid attack that's left him with a daily nightmare, and we're urging you to support him, Isaac Danko, as much as possibly if you can.